This is a tutorial on how to use Blender's built-in video editing capabilities. Blender is a very extensively complex program. A lot of people are really intimidated by it or overwhelmed by it. They just don't know where to start or what to do. There's a lot to learn. We won't even worry about getting into any of the advanced things. What I do want to do though is show you how to make a basic video clip and maybe a transition, a title, etc. I'm using Blender 2.78. Whatever version you've got is great. I recommend staying with the latest stable release. So to get rid of the splash screen when you start up, just click. And we don't need the default cube, so you can look here, you can delete, and it also shows you the hotkey. That hotkey is X. I use that, or you can hit the delete key, either one. So X to delete. And let me turn on my screencast keys for you. And I think I want it to be text. Now if I click a button, you can see what it is that I'm clicking. Alright, so I'm going to put the Shift C, puts the cursor in the middle, and then I want a front view. So if you go here, you can see view, front, numpad 1, you got left, right. You can hit the control and do the opposite, so you can do like top. If you hit control, it'll be bottom. See, control numpad 7 or 7. I want the front view, it's just the one I use. Actually, to make it simpler, let's just use the top view. Now we're looking at the top. Now we want this camera to look down at the top as well. So if you hit Control, Alt, then 0 on your numpad, now we're looking straight down. And if you look here, you can also go to the top, but you can say Camera, Set Active, and then Active Camera. Set active object as camera. So when you do that, it puts it aiming straight down. So you can do it with a hotkey like I did, or you can choose it from the menu. So next thing we want to do is create some text. So you can do Shift A, which is the hotkey, and select the text, or you can add an object and select text. There's your text. Now you can go right here. If you see the cursor down here, object mode, edit mode. You can switch that way with your mouse, or I like to use the tab key and go into edit mode. If you don't have your pie menus enabled in the add-on preferences, you can just, tabbing should take you directly into edit mode. So once you're in edit mode, you can just give it what you want. My video is good enough for what we're doing here. And then tab back to object mode. And now you can take these arrows and move this, or you can just hit grab and move it until you've set it with your mouse. So I'm going to put it right in the middle. Okay, so if you look up here, you can scroll back and forth to see these, or you can size this window out so you can see them all. It's whatever you want to do there. If you look, you've got a render tab, and it says render, animation, and audio. So you can render the audio, an animation, or you can render a clip or a picture. So whatever you see here is going to render if you hit that tab, and now you can see what it's going to look like in your video. So we really don't want something that low contrast. That gray against gray is kind of bad. So if you look at these tabs, one of these says world. So you click on world. Now you can, I use Cycles Render, and I like the node editor, and I'm not going into that today, but you can select the color of your background. So I want black. And I can take a look here now. Doesn't look too bad. It's still not real great. I've got a light source I can adjust, and I think I might do that. So if I look right there, there's a mouse, a light, so I can bring that forward. And if you look here, you got a mouse or a icon that looks like a light. Now you can determine what kind of light it is. I like sun because it gives you a nice bright light, so I can view that now and I can see that shows up pretty good. Or I could add a material using the materials tab. So if I select my lettering by right clicking, I can go to the materials button here, add a new material, and I could say let's make this an emission. And now when I look at it with F12 or that render button, it's bright and shiny, not shiny but bright, and so that's going to show up really well. I can also just leave it as a diffuse shader and go back to my light, and now I can turn this sun up in strength. Now let's see how it looks. See, it's just as bright by turning it up. So you can use lighting or you can use emission. I kind of think lighting is better because you got a little more control over what it looks like. And if you make it three-dimensional, you're going to see the shadows and things. Alright, so I need to also select here GPU. It's a little faster. If you don't have GPU, it's no big deal. It just takes a little longer to render. Okay, so using the text, just for giggles, I'm just going to go a little bit into it more advanced, not much. I can extrude the text, and I'll show you the extreme. See how that is extruding out there? So you can make it as fancy or as simple as you want. You can add materials, you can change the colors, whatever you want to do. I'm doing a basic one today. Now I'm going to add just a little bevel to the lettering to give it some shape. And then I also think that I will change the color to a, I don't know, something somewhere in there like maybe that. And then we can take a look and see what that's going to look like. So I like the way that looks, nice and clean. You can see the shape, it's three-dimensional and everything's cool. If you are going to let your movie clip show through in the background, you need to go over to this camera, which is your render tab, has all your render settings. You need to go down to where it says film and check that. That allows transparency, I'll show you. Now you see that there's nothing rendering in the background, it's transparent. So you can make it so that your video will show through. So now we have a scene set up. I'm going to call this intros just so it's easy to spot, because sometimes you might want some text to show up during the video or at the end. So you might want to make an intro and an ending, that kind of thing. So you would hit the plus right here and you can make a new scene. You can make a full copy of this one and then change the text to read something else, save yourself some work. That choice is up to you. So now we have the title that we're going to have in the video. I think it needs to be a little bigger, so I'm going to do scale by hitting S, and then I can scale that up, then I can hit G and move it over till it's centered again. And I think that looks pretty good. You can animate this. I'm not going to go into that part of it, but with using keyframes, you can move it around and make it animated. You can make it explode, whatever you want. There's all kinds of things you can do in Blender in that 3D modeling realm. Now to get to the actual video editor, now we've got our title. If you look here, you've got a screen that says default. Well, that's a workspace. Blender has them set up for various jobs that you do a lot. One of those being video editing. So if you select it from the pop-down list, then you get the video editing window. You can also control left and right arrows and go through. Okay, so video editing. When you're video editing, you want to be able to hear your audio, you want to be able to keep it in sync, and maybe be able to scrub to find the start of something. So let's look at this playback down here. Number one, this is a graph editor. If you have animations, you can adjust the curves and the speed of the animation, etc., how fast it transitions, whatever. This black area is where your video will display. This is your tracks. Will be your sound tracks, your video tracks. Anything you're doing in the way of transitions will all show up in this area. This is just your timeline, shows you where you're at in the length of the clip. And this is the menu system for the timeline. This is the menu system for the tracks. This is the menu system for that window and the menu system for that window. So that's kind of the way it's set up. This is your overall menu system for the whole program. Alright, so that's just by way of orientation. So we want audio visual to sync, so we can check that one. We want to be able to frame drop, so in case the video can't keep up. And we want audio scrubbing in case we want to find a particular spot. So we've got all those three elements. Now you can use Shift A and bring up your different options. You can add that scene there, right there. You can add a clip, you can add a mask, you can add a movie. That's the home video or whatever you've taken. You can add a picture, and that'll display for a set number of frames, and you can adjust that. You can add a sound clip, and you can do effects like pan and zoom using transform. You can make it fast or slow. You can also use an adjustment layer to do things to the clip itself, you know, color enhancement, whatever you need to do to that. There's also a compositing editor if you want to get really advanced. We're just going to work in the basics today. So first thing we want to do, let's add a black color as a starting place. So we got color. And if you can see here, it's about 1 frame. You can see over here it's 25 frames long, and my frame rate is set at 25. So that's 1 second. So I can set that to be 3 seconds just by typing in 75. Or I can right click on the end and then hit the G key and adjust it that way until it gets to where I want it to be. And notice it tells you in that little white number there how long the frame is. Left clicking sets it. So a lot of people hit the G key and then they click and it doesn't work because clicking releases it. So G key, now you can adjust it. So I want 3 seconds long. Now I will need to add a video, so I'm going to add one that I downloaded off the internet that I understand to be free. So I can add a movie right here and just navigate to where that is. This is a picture of some clouds. Now you can see it put it up in another area because I had the cursor at 1. I should have put the cursor here, then it would have put it at the end. But that's not worrisome. So just by way of explanation, your middle mouse, if you have a scroll wheel, if you scroll with that, you can zoom in and out on the windows. Like this one, I can zoom in and out. Okay. And down here, if I push down, I can go left and right or up and down. Okay. I can also hit Shift and do the same thing. Lots of ways you can scroll in it. You can also grab this bar down here. You can see the ends where it's dark gray. If I zoom way out, it becomes smaller. You can see more of what I'm grabbing. And I can zoom up and down the timeline. So I like this window to be about as big as I can make it and fit in there. And you can adjust the size by doing this. You can also move this one a little bit to the left, and then you can get a little more. So it depends on how much you got going in here, whatever your preference is. Okay, so now we have a video clip. It needs to be in the right place. So you right click, selects what you want. This one I don't even need because there's no sound in that clip, and I don't want it even if there was. So I'm going to take my X key or my delete key and get rid of that. Now I'm going to right click and grab and move that down. As you see it turning red, that means I'm over the top of that other clip, that little black color clip. If I release it, it'll just snap into place, and that's what we want. Now I would like to have a black clip at the end as well, so I'm going to move my cursor down there just to and then I'm going to add again, and I'll use this menu system for the ease of showing. Now I've got a black clip at the end. I want it just a little bit longer, so I'm going to have a black clip followed by my video and a black clip at the end. I want to make sure this is right up against it, so I hit the G key and move it till it turns red, and then it snaps when I left click. You can also just zoom in and visually make sure there's no open spaces. Okay, now we know how long our clip is because we've got all the components in there. I can take the end of setting here, I can add all this up, or I can just click on this and then drag to the right and it will advance. And you can see that the frame window there is getting longer and longer. So I'm adjusting the end frame. I'll just take it out to the end of the video right there. So that's 573. And because I did it freestyle, I could make it an even 600, whatever I want. So let's just watch the video quickly. It may stutter because I'm doing a screen capture. Have black. Now we have the video playing, and you can see it's stuttering. Blender will repeat as soon as it gets to the end until you stop it. And I'm using this playhead down here to do that. There are hotkeys, but for this video I'm using the playhead. Okay, so person says I don't want to be black and then cut immediately. I want it to transition, so I'll show you how to add a transition. In this case, I just want one fading out the end, and you can do the same thing at the beginning if you want. So you select one of the clips you're going to have the transition on, then you shift click, right click, now you've got both selected. Then you go to the add menu and go to effect strip, and I use cross a lot. So now I just added a crossfade. The length is determined by these two ends of these two clips. So if I right click here, I get that arrow lit up. If I'm out here, that's going to move the whole clip, but if I click there, it just moves the one end. So if I drag that, you'll see there's a pink area. That is where it's going to crossfade, and I'll show you by advancing one frame at a time. You can see it's going to start fading out and getting darker and darker until it gets all the way to black. So that's how you add a crossfade. You can do gamma fades, other things. You can fade to white, whatever you want. It's up to you. Okay, so now we'll go back to the beginning of the clip, and we want to add that title. So I don't want the title to come in immediately. I want it to come in at after a little time. So I'm going to set my cursor right there. Now I'm going to add that scene that I made, and you can see there it is. Okay, but I don't want the title to go all the way to the end of the clip. So how long do I want it to be? I can just pull this down until I got whatever I want by clicking on that number and dragging left and right. See that? Or I can do a hard cut with a Shift K. I'll extend this out and show you that. I can put the cursor where I want it to stop. Shift K gives a cut, and then you can right click, select, and delete, erase strip. So there's several ways to accomplish what you want. You can do it with this over here easy enough. So this is 139 frames long, so that's basically 5 seconds because it's 25 frames per second. That's long enough for a title, 5 seconds. You can't really see under here because even though you have transparency enabled, you haven't put the transparency modifier on here. So for every clip you have to select it and then select the title by shift click and select, and then you go down to add and effect strip alpha over. And you're not going to see it here because it hasn't been rendered, but if I render that, you'll see first it renders with the transparent background, then it adds transparency. Okay, now if you want transparency over the black as well, then what you have to do is escape will get you back out of this window here. Okay, so you have to do the same thing. Select your black clip, select your title overlay, and then either Shift A or Add, Effect Strip, Alpha Over. And now when you render, you'll get alpha, you'll get your title, and it'll be over the black. Okay, so that's basically how you put your title in. You could just have a title with a picture at the back, put it in line, and not worry about alpha over and all that. But that's how you would superimpose it over your clip. Now the only thing we got left is to add a soundtrack. And I could put 10 clips or 10, I can cut and paste, I can add still images with pan and zoom, whatever you can imagine you can do. So I need to add some sound here, and I want it to start about where the clip actually comes in to play. So I'm going to put my cursor right about there, and I'm going to add sound. I'm going to go to my desktop, and I think I'll just do Valley Days. It's one of my flute scratch tracks that I've done. And I've got some audio here that I don't want at the beginning because I haven't edited it. It was just a rough cut.
There you
go. Alright, so my audio starts right about there. So I'm going to do Shift K and cut off that audio that I don't want. Select it, hit X or delete key. And then I want to move this to where it starts about where the video starts. Now, when I do this, it starts in the right place. Okay, so let's just look at that again. Here comes the title. Audio starts, it's transitioning or it's cutting. Now we're in the clip. Okay, so this song is a lot longer than the clip is. So I want to zoom out and get down here to the end. And I want to cut that off at the end. So I am just going to make sure I'm at the end. You can see that disappear in that black window there, that outline. That means I'm past the end of the clip. Alright, now I can hit Shift K with the audio selected, and that cuts it. And now I can delete that extra audio that we don't need. I'm going to select this clip, and I would like to have a fade out. So if you go over here, this is the properties for that clip. And if you notice, there's a volume there. So if I go back, say, a couple of seconds, I can set that volume. I can right click on that and insert a keyframe, or I can hit I, either way, by hovering over it and hitting I. It turns yellow. Now we have a keyframe. So that means whatever happens when I get to that frame, it's going to set the volume at 1, and the volume is already at 1, so there's, and you can see that when we get to that keyframe, it'll turn yellow. Somewhere in there I hit that keyframe, I thought. I don't know where, I guess I went too far. So I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to set it down to 0. I'm going to insert a keyframe. Now if I move back, you should see it start to go up. See that value going up? It's getting louder and louder. There's 1. There's the keyframe, okay? So it's going to go from 1 and fade down to nothing. Alright, so I just want to watch the clip all the way through one time. Here we go. I rewound and it's starting, so here it comes. I know that the transition's back there, it's just not rendered. Seems to be working fine. Little jerky, but that's because I'm recording. So it's working fine. Alright, so now that I've got my clip all set up like I want it, I'm going to go back to the default screen. And there I'm going to go into the render tab and set it up to render it out. Okay, so I'm going to hit animation when I'm ready to render. But first I want to make sure it's set up. So if you look down here, you've got your dimensions. This is going to be 50% of my screen, which I want it to be a full-size video. So I'm going to change this to 100%. And I can do whatever percentage I want. But there's my initial resolution, and I'm doing 100% of that. My frame rate, I wanted it 25. Here's the ping. See that? So you've got this list. These are all image files. I'm going to get 573 images wherever I render this, and that's not what I want. I want video. So I'm going to go over here and select. I like H.264. It's very, very good codec. I also want to choose where the output is, so I can just go over here to my desktop and accept that, and then I give it a name, my video. You can name it whatever you want, and then you can see here that it's H.264, so we're good there. Now we're going to go to the encoding tab, and this would be like the wrapper. This is AVI. I want MPEG-4, and I've already got the codec there because I selected it here. You could say lossless and have absolutely no loss in video quality. Then you have to go on down to the audio codec, and you can select from what's available on your system. You can do MP3, you can do PCM, which is just, WAV files. The recommended, I believe, for YouTube is AC3, so I'm going to choose that. Now you can adjust your bit rate, customize whatever you want. I just leave it at defaults. It seems to work fine. So once you've got that all done, then you go up and you hit animate. I've told it where, I've told it what format to use, what wrapper to use, and what audio codec. So now when I hit animate, it will start rendering out. And it will, it depends on what you're doing. I'll do a little bit here. Because I've got the video overlay, the title overlay, it's going to have to render that first. So you'll see it renders the frame. Right now it's rendering the black that goes really fast. Now it's rendering where the title actually starts. And that slows it down because it has to build that image. And then once it does that, it'll go to the next frame, and it'll keep doing that till it gets through building your title, and then it'll go back to just really fast frames because they're already rendered in the video you added. And then you go to your desktop and play it, and everything is fine. So that is essentially what you do as a video editor. There are more advanced things to be done, but I could take several hours and go through all that, but this will get you started in making a basic video. If you have any questions, you can email me, contact me privately, and I'll be happy to help, or you can ask questions right on YouTube or wherever you're watching this video, and I'll be happy to respond to that. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I hope it's helpful.